If you're struggling with knowing how to start off your ESL semester, like what do you do on the very first day of class? Don't worry, I've been there too. I always felt like the very first day of class was such an awkward lesson to plan, but 10 plus years of teaching ESL, I've got it down. Here is my entire first day lesson plan. You can just copy and paste for your own class. My name is Megan. I have been a teacher in China for 12, 13 years. So how many starts of the semester is that? Like 24? I have done this first day of the semester lesson plan so many times and I've got it down to an art. So let me walk you through the lesson plan. You're going to focus on 3 things. First, get to know each other. Second, preparing for the semester. And third, you're going to start studying. Within each of these sections, we're going to break it down so we can cover everything we need to cover on the first day, as well as create the right atmosphere that will set us up for success for the rest of the semester. So like I said, I like to start off with the get to know you section. And first, I introduce myself. My name is Megan. I'm from America. I was born in Pennsylvania. When I was in high school, my family moved to Kentucky. I also like to include a couple of questions to immediately start off the class with a little bit of back and forth, some interaction. So have you ever heard of Pennsylvania? Have you ever heard of Kentucky? Do you know what Kentucky is famous for? It's famous for fried chicken. I keep this section very lighthearted, very interesting, low pressure, and I want to start off immediately having some interaction as well. That's going to set the stage for how much interaction I expect from them from the rest of the semester. Then I move into the question I have for students and I ask them, during the winter holiday or during the summer holiday, did you speak in English? And of course they say no. And you can play around with them, have a little bit of fun. I feign shock. And I think, what? You didn't wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and open your textbook and study English. You didn't speak English every day with your mom. You didn't speak English every day with your grandma. Of course the students are not doing that. And I say, that's fine. During the winter holiday, during the summer holiday, it's for relaxing, for spending time with our family. But maybe you found, now that we're back at school, maybe you forgot a little bit of your English. And so I tell them that today, as we get to know each other, we're just gonna casually relax, no pressure, but we're gonna kind of remember our English. So then I have the students turn to a partner and ask them 3 questions. They can ask any questions. I have a couple of examples on the board, like, what was the best thing you did during the holiday? Did you get a job during the holiday? How do you feel about our classes this semester? Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have any hobbies? They can ask any 3 questions. I find this is crucial because I want students within 5 minutes of the bell ringing, I want them talking to each other, communicating with each other. This is not a class where I just talk. You guys are talking. But also, this is research for me. I don't know these students. This is a brand new class for me. And so in this very beginning period, I'm able to see a little bit of their personality. Are they really shy? Are they really quiet? Are they immediately joking with each other and laughing and kind of being loud and raucous in the classroom? Or are they a little bit quieter? Are they gonna need a little bit more of that like gentle prodding in order to talk with each other and chat with each other? I'm also listening for their English level. So I'm listening to their accents, I'm listening to the pronunciation, I'm listening to the vocabulary that they're using to also really quickly, immediately trying to get a gauge on their level. This doesn't take a lot of time. I stop them and then I say, well, you know me, now it's time for me to know you. Remember, we're in this front section of getting to know each other. So here is where we focus on English names. I ask them, do you already have English names? If they don't, then I give them a little bit of time to chat with their partner and search online to choose an English name, because I tell them we are going to play a game. Now this game is called the name game. For the game, you're going to need an English name. So just choose an English name. I like to use English names in my classroom because it creates more of that like English environment. Students usually find it to be really fun. And also at my school specifically, they'll need to have their English names in the future when they go for their internships and when they have some special projects that they work on at my school. Now I also make it known too that not your real name. I understand that you have a real name and you have your amazing Chinese names, but this is just for an English environment. This is just to be used in our classroom. So once students have chosen their English names, or if they already have English names, then we play the name game. I have an entire video about how to play this game. I can link it in the cards above and down below. This game is super simple. every student will stand up, say their name, and they have to say the names of the people who came before them. So if I'm the first person, I say, my name is John, sit down. The next person stands up and says, his name is John, my name is Mary, and we go around the entire classroom. Now, it's a really simple game, but if you're going to do this, please watch the video. And I'm not just saying that to like promote the other videos. This game is perfect when it goes well. And if it does not go well, congratulations, you're about to experience the most awkward 10 to 15 minutes of your life. This game can go very, very, very wrong, and having played it so many times, I figured out exactly how to make it go smoothly every single time. So if you are gonna play it, please watch the video. There are a bunch of tips that make it go smoothly. My classes are generally quite large with about 35 to 40 students, but if you have a much smaller class, you know, maybe just 10 students or maybe 4 students, you could always switch this up and play any other type of icebreaker game, you know, maybe like 2 truths and a lie. Sometimes when I've taught really small classes of like 4 or 5 students, I've done something like that instead. All this is this is a chance for you to learn their names. Also, what I really like about having this icebreaker type of activity is the fact that not only have my students talked to each other in English, but now they're being required to stand and say something by themselves in English as well. We are breaking down those barriers of feeling awkward, of feeling shy within the first 10 minutes of class. Everyone has talked to their partner and had a conversation in English. They've also stood up and said something to the entire class. That's what we want. We want to break down those barriers and break down that feeling of like awkward, shy. No, in our class, in our ESL class, we are speaking. Get used to it. And there we have it. That's the end of our first section, getting to know each other. Now we're going to move on to section number 2. By the way, I have all of this on the board behind me on the PowerPoint so that students are also aware of what we're doing in this class. The second part is preparing for our semester. And here I have 4 sections. Number 1, what will this class be like? Number 2, how to get a good grade. Number 3, our class values. And number 4, goals. Those are the 4 sections that we'll talk about now. Here, I want to set the stage for the study that we're going to be doing throughout the entire semester. I want to be open and honest with students about my expectations and what they can expect in the class. So, what will this class be like? Here's where I just introduce the topic of the class. If it's a writing class, we talk about how we're going to learn about writing. If it's a listening class, we talk about that. If it's just a speaking class, we talk about that. If it's business English, basically just introduce the overall idea of the semester. I also like to share our class schedule as well. I give them an idea of what each class is going to look like. For my classes, all my students know at the very beginning of class, I check the homework. Then we have a review game. Then I introduce the topic. Then we learn vocabulary, and the rest of the time we're practicing. So I let students know about that. I let them know the topics that we're going to be studying. This is when I like to have students open up the textbook, especially to the table of contents, and kind of look through the different topics that we're going to talk about this semester. It gets them more familiar with the ideas that we're going to be discussing, as well as what the classroom vibe might be like. Here's also where I tell the students that this is not just a class where I'm going to be talking a lot. Now I tell them today I'm talking a little bit more because I'm introducing all of this information on the very first day of class. But in our class, you're going to be talking a lot. I also tell the students, you can ask me a question at any time. This is where I'm just giving the students the overall idea of what we're going to be studying and what we're going to be focusing on this semester. Question number 2 is, how can I get a good score? And all throughout this lesson, I am asking them questions, and I'm trying to keep things very light and interactive. And I ask them, do you want a good score? And they all go, yeah. And I'm like, of course you do. Everybody wants a good score. I want you to have a good score as well. So let me lay out exactly what I'm looking for. So I go through the 4 things that will make up their score: their attendance, their participation, their homework, and their exams. You can modify this to whatever scores you will be using. And then I break it down. I show the students exactly what getting a good score for attendance looks like. I show them exactly what I mean by good participation. What does that mean? I give them examples. It means asking questions and answering questions. It means talking to your partner. When I say talk to your partner, it means being active in class. It means having a good attitude. It means not just being on your phone the entire class. It means not sleeping in class. Here, I'm basically just laying out my expectations for them. This is what I am expecting them to do each day in class. I'm expecting them to come to class on time. I'm expecting them to be active in class, to not be on their phones, to be working hard and having a good attitude. If there's homework, I expect them to do the homework. This is how they can turn their homework in. Here's what to do if you forget your homework one day and your homework needs to be turned in late. I'm going over all of those expectations. I also talk about the final exam. At the end of the semester, we're going to have a final exam. It's going to be a written exam or it's going to be a spoken exam. And I also talk about the breakdown of the scores as well. Which one is most important? At my school, the exam is 40% of their final score, and everything else, their attendance and their participation, is 60%. And I give the students actual examples. I tell them, if you had an A on the exam, but a C on participation, here's what your final score is going to look like. If you kill it on participation, you get an A in participation, but you get a C on the exam, this is what your score is going to look like. I don't want my students to feel unsure about what I expect from them, and I never want them to open up their score at the end of the semester and feel shocked about why they got their score. At the very first day of class, I'm laying out my expectations and I'm doing all that like admin work, the things that I have to say, the school attendance policy, all of that administrative work that the students do need to know. After the students know how they can get a good score, then I move on to the third part, which is class values. I got this idea, I don't even remember where, so many years ago, and I have absolutely loved it. And it's only become more and more and more important to me the longer I've been teaching. I used to call these the class rules, but I much prefer the word value. This is what I hope our class can embody. This is what I hope our class can do every single time the bell rings. So I only have 3 things. I keep it really simple, I keep it really short, but I don't want my students to only focus on the score. They're doing these things because they want the score. I want my students to focus on the fact that like we're all working together and we're all trying to learn together. So the first thing I say is that I hope every time when you come to class, we can work hard. Our class value is we are hard workers. I talk with my students about how difficult it is to learn English and how little time we actually have each week to practice. So each week when you come to practice, take advantage of the chance. I know maybe some days you'll be a little bit tired, maybe it's nearing the end of the week or you have a lot of homework or you didn't sleep well, but I am an international teacher. This is your chance to hear an international person speaking English, a native speaker speaking fluently, using that accent. This is your chance to have like a hands-on learning experience. Don't waste that chance. The second class value that we have is respect each other. So I tell my students that, if one classmate is making a presentation, everyone should be quiet and giving them their attention because we want to respect each other in our class. If I am talking, keep the classroom quiet, not only as respect to me, but as respect for your classmates. Maybe I'm talking about vocabulary and you think, this is so easy, I already know this. I'll talk to my partner. But I tell them that maybe your partner over here doesn't understand what I'm saying. Maybe they are confused about the vocabulary words. And if they can't hear me clearly, you've now stopped them from learning. I also tell them, when I tell you turn to your partner and have a conversation, and you turn to your partner and you say, okay, let's talk. Where do you want to travel to? If your partner just like crosses their arms and won't talk to you, then can you easily practice English? No. In order for us to practice and improve our English, we all need to be helping each other when we come to class. So respect your classmates when they're giving a presentation or when they're trying to talk to you or when I'm talking, make sure it's quiet so that everyone can hear carefully. The third value that I have is about phones. Now, I teach at a university, so my students are adults, and I also tell them this. You're an adult, you can choose your score. You know, if you want to be late to every class, that's technically your prerogative. So you can be late to every class, but your score is going to suffer because of that. So I tell my students, let me grab my phone. I hold my phone up and I ask them, can you use your phone in my class? Most of them guess, no, you can't. But I tell them that for my class and my students, yes, you can use your phone because I only see my students once a week. It's crazy how little time we have together. And I tell them we don't have that much time. So if there's a word that I say and you don't understand, grab your phone and search it. If there's a word on the PowerPoint that you don't understand, a word in the textbook, grab your phone, search it. If you're talking to your partner and you can't think of the word that you want to say, grab your phone, search it. If you can't remember the proper pronunciation, grab your phone, search it. I tell the students that our class value is to use our phone to help us study English, not use our phone to stop us from learning English. And I go through all the examples of that as well. I'm like, if you're sitting in the back of the room playing video games, are you practicing your English? No. If you're scrolling online trying to think about what you want to order for lunch, are you practicing your English? No. If you're talking to your friends, are you like, I go through all of that with them. Now, your school might have a totally different policy. For these class values, this is super customizable. Don't just take my class values. Decide what you want to be your class values, but probably don't do more than 3. Okay, the last section in our preparing for the semester is to talk about goals. This is such an important part of the lesson in my eyes because I know how important it is to be able to set goals and be able to focus on what you need to focus on for language learning specifically. So I start off by asking the students a question. I ask them, how many years have you been studying English? And for my students at this school, they've been studying English for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years. And so I pretend to be a little bit shocked. I'm like, what? 10 years? 12 years? Are you kidding me? That's such a long time. Okay, second question. How good is your English? And it's so interesting. Every single year, their face just completely changes. And they're like, yeah, not good, not good. They're all like, it's not good. Our English is bad. It's so-so. And so I asked them, why? You've been studying English for 10 years. Why do you say your English is bad? And we talk through it. The students are like, because when we were in high school, we just focused on like grammar and vocabulary and writing, but we can't listen and we can't speak. Or they say things like, English is hard. And I totally agree with them. And that's what I want them to say too. Tell them that English is really hard because there's so much to study. You have to study pronunciation and vocabulary and grammar and business vocabulary. And you have to practice writing and reading and listening and speaking. And I tell them that if you tried to improve everything in one semester, it would be really difficult to see progress. Just like if you decided that you were going to learn every sport this semester. You say, okay, this semester, I want to learn basketball and ping pong and volleyball and soccer and in one semester. Are you going to be able to learn all of those sports very well? Of course not. So what would be better is to just choose one sport to focus on. To just focus on basketball and just improve your skills with basketball. If you want to even be better, you get really specific about that. I'm going to practice my shooting, or I'm going to practice my dribbling. So I tell the students that you feel like your English is really bad because you often try to study everything. And I tell them that students ask me all the time, Megan, how can I improve my English? It's a tough question because you can't improve everything all at the same time. So I tell them, let's not do that. Let's stop trying to improve everything this semester. We don't have that much time. So instead, I tell the students that I want them to open up their textbooks. Usually like in the front cover of the book, there's like the copyright page or even some blank pages. And I tell them, write down 3 English goals that you have for yourself this semester. We're not going to study everything. We're gonna narrow our focus. And I give them a second to write down their goals. Now, for a lot of classes, I like to take this a step further. I don't always do this though. I like to take it a step further because I tell my students, okay, 3 is a great number, But 3 is honestly still a lot. Like maybe you wrote down, I want to improve my pronunciation, I want to improve my vocabulary, and I want to improve my speaking. That's still a lot to do in one semester. So I tell the students now to look at your list and choose one. Choose the one that's most important to you, the one you want to start with. If you feel like you're confident after you've completed number 1, then maybe we can move on to number 2 and number 3, but let's just focus on the one that's most important to us. Most students are not able to do all 3 in a semester unless they're like crazy ambitious. Most students can focus on one. So I tell the students to focus on one goal, and also that I want them to write down specific ways that they can accomplish their goal. And I give them an example of this. I said, don't just write down, I want to learn vocabulary words, because it's really easy to write that in your book, close your book, forget about it. So write down, I want to improve my vocabulary. So each week I will watch one American TV show and write down 5 vocabulary words that I learned. Each week when I come to class, before the class bell rings, I'm gonna open up my textbook and review last week's vocabulary words. I want them to write down ideas about how they can accomplish their goals. I don't just want to teach my students English. I want to teach them how to be the best people they can be, how to live an expansive life. So if I can teach them how to set goals, that's going to help their English journey, but maybe it will help other areas of their life as well. So I give students to write down their one goal and then some ideas of how to do it. And it's been a while now since the students have had a chance to talk. So I want the students to share their goal with their partner. One, they get one more chance to practice their speaking, but also if your partner knows that you really want to improve your pronunciation, if they ever catch you making a pronunciation mistake, they know that that's your goal and they can clock you and they can give you a correction. If they know that you're really working on vocabulary, they can maybe push you while they're doing conversations and while they're talking with you to have better vocabulary. So I give students a chance to share their goals. I also like to walk around the room as well and talk with them and ask them what their goals are. So we have finished part 1, which is getting to know each other. Part 2 is preparing for our semester. Part 3 is to start studying. Now, sometimes I don't have enough time for this. It really depends on your class time, but if you have some extra time, go ahead and open up the textbook and start your first activities. Maybe you have some grammar exercises, vocabulary, speaking, listening, writing, whatever it is. I like to choose a couple of easy things to kind of give students an idea of what our class is going to be like once we really start studying for real. Now, there is one more section I haven't really mentioned, and that is an icebreaker activity at the very end of class. I love to get all of the admin stuff out of the way, but then end off the class on a high note. My absolute favorite game to play for this is called the Find Someone game. And I'll be completely honest, I can't remember if I've made a video dedicated directly to this. I know I've written an article about it. I'll definitely leave it down below. Maybe I will make a separate dedicated video to this because it works so well. So I tell the students that they have to find 15 different people in the classroom. You can adjust that as needed. And I give them a list of all the people that they need to find. This is essentially like a human scavenger hunt. So the list will say something like, find someone who is wearing white, or find someone who has visited Beijing, find someone who likes sushi, find someone who has a pet dog. And essentially the students have to walk around the classroom and talk to each other until they find someone who completes the list. So they have to walk around and be like, do you have a dog? Do you have a dog? Do you have a dog? All of these things generally have really simple vocabulary questions, but again, they're standing up, they're moving around, they're talking to each other in English, and I've been playing this game for over 10 years. I have never had a class not enjoy this game. They are laughing, they are smiling the entire time, and it's such a good way to end off the class as well. It ends on a high note. It lets them know that we are going to be speaking English a lot and we're going to be using the language as well. Like, we're using the language to finish the game. We're using the language to accomplish a purpose. And that's it. The last thing is to assign some homework, which I don't usually like to do on the very first day of class. Maybe you have to, But that's really my entire lesson plan for the very first day of an ESL lesson. I love that this is really customizable. If I have more time, I can stretch it out. If I have less time, I can shorten it. And I truly used to feel like the first class was so awkward. I didn't know how to balance like introducing students to the vibe of the class. How do you create a safe, fun classroom atmosphere while also studying? But now this is my go-to. I literally just copy and paste it for every single class. First day of the semester, this is what we do. We get to set that fun, low pressure, safe learning atmosphere. The students have had multiple chances to talk to each other and to talk to me. We've done a little bit of studying. I've learned their English names. We've gotten all the administrative stuff out of the way, like what do you do if you're late to class, or what do you do if your homework is late? And the next class, we're ready to go. The students know what to expect, they know what they're in for, and we can start studying for real in the next semester. Sorry, in the next week. Getting ahead of myself. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments down below. If you're thinking about playing the name game, definitely go watch that video so that way it goes smoothly. I don't want you to experience awkward moments, because my goodness, I've lived through some pretty awkward name games before I figured it out. You can always check back here for weekly videos as well. I hope you have a great start to your semester. I'll see you next time.